Hi, I'm Blake Alexander, and this is my case study for EDL 853. Get this child out of my room. So, a summary of the case is about a student named Carl Hughes. He is a third grade student who has a behavior IEP for self harm. Miss Taylor is Carl's teacher, who wants him out of a room because he is now aiming his aggression at her. He sharpened a pencil and threw it at her, and she came into Miss Susan Green's office really upset, wanting him removed from her class. Susan Green is the new SPED teacher that is in charge of Carl's IEP. And then we also know in here that Carl's parents are going through a divorce, and it's in his file. And since that time, he's been having a really hard time with his aggression and things like that. And also, according to Carl's psychological profile, he does not qualify for full services, which also doesn't qualify to be removed from the room. So category one, what do I know? So the who, we know about Carl Hughes. He's a student with the IEP. We know about Susan Green. She was a special education teacher. And we know Mrs. Nancy Taylor is a third grade teacher. She is a first year teacher. She's new to teaching, and she's dealing with this issue in her class with a student. Where this is happening at, it's happening at Schuyler K through 12 Comprehensive School. It is in the Fulton School District. It is a rural school district, and resources are shared among many of the schools. And then a little bit more about the incident. We know that Carl is now becoming violent towards his teacher. We know that Miss Taylor wants him out of the room. We also know that he can't change the IEP or change his plan without having a meeting first. And they had some problems getting the parents in on a meeting, but they finally did. And then we know the adults in Carl's life are having problems. What do I need to know? I need to know, is Carl's behavior a safety concern for Mrs. Taylor and the other students? Is what he's doing, is it going to cause harm or have a chance of causing harm to Mrs. Taylor or any of the other students in the class? We also need to know if Carl's actions are a call for help, what's behind them. We also need to know if it's better for Carl to stay in the regular classroom or be moved to another setting. And it's not about just what's best for Carl. It's also about what's best for all the students and the other students and the teachers and everything else. So, what is the best plan for Carl is the overall goal. And so identify the problem. The problem is that Mrs. Taylor wants Carl removed from her classroom. But Susan Green wants, to make a plan for Carl. She's already tried to develop that plan, and she's, feels like she can't remove him or provide full services for him because of his, how he's been, because of his profile and because of the recommendations of the psychologist. Some of the underlying problems, Mrs. Taylor's class is being disrupted, and the issues going on in Carl's life with his parents' divorce and things that are happening at home. So a plan of action. First, I would have a meeting with all the stakeholders. Second, we would update Carl's IEP, and then we would have to meet again to adjust it and finalize it. And then third, I would monitor Carl. Not just me. All the stakeholders would monitor Carl through observations. We'd get together and talk about how his plan's working, and then we could change it. And then last, we would provide support and training for Mrs. Taylor, Susan Green, and Carl's family. And we'll go more into the steps of these next. So the first one would be a meeting with stakeholders. So strategy one would be have a meeting with, all those stakeholders. Those stakeholders are Carl's parents, Susan Green, Mrs. Taylor, the school psychologist, and any of the building leaders. When we had these meetings, we would talk about a reevaluation. Let's see if he changes. Let's see if he qualifies for full services now. Let's see if if it's the best interest for him to be removed from the classroom. Let's go ahead and start with a reevaluation on those things. Let's talk about the causes of the problems, talk about the options for Carl, and talk about the safety of the teachers and the students. And then three would be to lay out each individual rule. So, what can you do to help Carl? what can his parents do at home to help Carl, things like that. So, and then the next would be to update his IEP. It'd be for Ms. Susan Green to go take it, everything that was talked about in the meeting, and put all that stuff into work. And then kind of lay out the plan. What did we decide? Should he be in an alternative classroom? Should he be pulled off for breaks? Should we be providing some kind of incentives for days that, for his good days that he's having? What are some cool down techniques? And then after reevaluation, are we going to be able to provide him with support in the classroom? Somebody who can help him in these situations, cool him down, take him for a break, things like that. And then it'll be to rewrite Carl's IEP, have another meeting with everybody agree on it, sign it, and put it into action. And then the last thing would be to monitor and adapt Carl's plan. So first, each stakeholder would make their observations, record their data, and then we'd have to get together and talk about it again. What's working? What's not working? What do we think could make it better? Are we seeing improvements? And, if he is doing really well, can we try to, if he was coming out of the classroom, could we try to get him back into the classroom more, and things like that. And then the last thing would be to, change or alter the plan, and then, have a meeting, have it signed, and put that plan into action. Then the last would be to provide support and training. So for Miss Taylor, just have a discussion with her about her state of mind, how things are going. She's a first-year teacher. What can I do to help you? And just, provide that support so that she feels, comfortable, and that it's not just, sometimes your first year teaching, you get an experience like this, it can really affect her well-being. And then also provide her with any training, maybe some ways to de-escalate a situation when something like this happens. And then Susan Green, same thing. Training, talk to her, give her encouragement, ask her if she needs anything, training, resources, and suggestions, just to be there to help her out in this situation. And then also there's Carl's family. I think a big thing would be to try to find some community resources, such as somebody that they can talk to, somebody they can work with, to try to provide Carl a more stable, family situation at home. Because obviously he's having some anger issues, he's angry about some things, and finding some maybe outside help could help him. All right, category 3, the resolution, what's best for students. The best thing for students is to find a plan that works for Carl, Miss Taylor, and Susan. If we can find a plan that everybody's happy with, and that's best for our students, then that would be the best solution for this. And some of the data that was in there is, that supports that this is best for students, is that Carl is disrupting Miss Taylor's class. He's threatening her safety. Susan's struggling to solve the problem. And removing Carl will have a negative result on his education. And that's just some of the data on it. So category 4, what was I thinking, feeling, and valuing? When I was going through the case, I was thinking, why is Carl acting out? What's the reasoning behind it? I was also thinking how I could help him. And then I was also thinking, this problem needs to be resolved before somebody gets hurt, before he takes the next step of actually hurting his teacher or hurting another classmate, since he has gone from self-harm to now aiming it at his teacher. What was I feeling? I was feeling sad for Carl because, he's young, he's a kid, and he's having a really rough time at home, and obviously he doesn't know how to handle those emotions. I was also feeling sorry for Mrs. Taylor for disrupting, for how Carl is disrupting her class and making it, hard on her to teach her class. For a first-year teacher, that could be really tough. And I was also disappointed that Mrs. Taylor had given up on Carl, that she was just like, hey, I'm done with him, get him out. It's only been, I think it was said, 6 weeks. Maybe there's some ways you could de-escalate the situation, build a relationship with that student. and make things better for Carl and yourself. And then what was I valuing? I was valuing, my school special education staff, the situations they have to deal with, and how, hard of a job it can be sometimes. I was also valuing, teachers just in general, the stuff they have to go through. And then the hard work of Susan Green on the case. It's, writing IEPs is a lot of work, and developing those plans. And so I was just valuing her effort to find the best solution for Carl. So what issues are still unresolved or open to further investigation? First, is Carl's new IP going to work? We don't know if it's going to work right now, and that's still unresolved. What happened with Carl's home situation? Did it get better? Have his parents found a way to be civil and bring a better, happier environment at home for Carl? And is Mrs. Taylor's state of mind, how is it? Is she still happy here? Is she willing to work for kids? Is she grown from the situation? And things like that. Category 5 component: how did I promote the academic success for all students? First, was to ensure Carl is not affecting the education of other students. So by finding a plan that works for Carl and evaluating the situation and seeing if he needs to be removed or anything like that, the thing is to make sure that Carl is not affecting the education of the other students in the class, along with his own. I also developed a plan that allows Carl to continue to learn and get a good education. So instead of just pulling him out and saying, okay, he's done, he can go sit in a room by himself, we work together to find a plan that is going to help Carl learn and grow. And then I also develop and educate staff on situations like this so that in the future we can provide the best academics for all the students. And developing your staff for that is definitely going to benefit all students when it comes to academics. Component 2, how did I promote the personal well-being of every student? So first, I helped Carl be able to handle his emotions and grow as a person, finding something that worked with him and him being able to cope. We developed a successful plan. If a successful plan was developed, it would be one that would keep students safe, help keep them from witnessing those things. They could be happier and safer. Also, by monitoring Carl's home situation, it would help ensure that his well-being is improving. And then the last one is educating and supporting teachers to better provide for their students, checking on Mrs. Taylor's well-being and Susan Green's well-being and how they are emotionally, and where their mind's at in the situation, also could help all the students' well-being and how they're feeling. And then component 2, how did I enhance instructional capacity? By collaborating with all the stakeholders involved. I feel like by doing that, everybody could grow and learn on the situation. The next would be training and resources for the teachers involved. Providing training resources, some PDs, that would help instructional capacity and help our staff grow. And then also the last one is emotional support and listening to the concerns of the teachers involved. Sometimes teachers just want to know that you're listening to their concerns and you've heard some of the things that they're having issues with, and then you can work together to help solve them. That is my presentation. Thank you for watching.